We have with us today Bill Dedman, one of the lead reporters on Newsday's undercover investigation of racial steering by real estate agents. He designed the hidden camera project called Long Island Divided, which showed agents reinforcing a racial segregation through illegal steering of home buyers. The project has launched investigations by state and federal authorities and several steps by the National Association of Realtors to increase awareness of fair housing issues. Newsday's team received several national awards for their work, including a Peabody Award. Welcome to the HAR virtual stage conference, Bill.
Thank you, Katie. So I want to take you first through what was tested and what the findings were in our investigation. First, a little bit of the setting. Long Island is an area that stretches east of New York City and has about 3 million people. And it's a heavily segregated suburb, perhaps the most heavily segregated in the country. That is, there's a lot of diversity overall, people of all nationalities and races. But especially African Americans, rich or poor, are concentrated in very few communities. We had long heard anecdotes from Black homebuyers encountering problems trying to buy a home, especially in white or integrated areas. We even heard that from our own staff. And so the idea was to test by sending out pairs of home buyers or renters. That's the way it's typically done by fair housing agencies. And it's really the only way to see whether customers are treated equally. We also noted that an anniversary was coming up. Our tests were done as the Federal Fair Housing Act was approaching its 50th anniversary. So we focused on home sales, sending out first-time home buyers one at a time shopping for their family. We would send a white home buyer and separately an Asian home buyer, or white and Black and white and Latino. And the testers, it's important to notice, gave the agent the same circumstances and the same constraints on their home search. They followed the same script. First-time home buyers, not selling another property, had the same gender, the two testers, same age range, same family size. They were dressed in the same business casual style. We even picked out the same similar purses for the women testers to carry. Same geographic area, same stated price range, same number of bedrooms, and same income if they were asked, but usually they weren't, and the same credit score if they were asked. Also the same mortgage pre-approval status. An agent might require pre-approval or might not, but our two testers were in the same situation. We shopped for houses from every level of pricing. In New York prices, that's about $400,000 for entry level, up to a high end, about $7 million. But again, both testers in the same range. And it's important to note that they saw the same agent. So we were following the methods used by fair housing agencies with the one important addition. We were using hidden cameras for audio and video. That's legal in New York, and it's legal in most states. There are about 10 that don't allow hidden audio recording. But it's important to remember that testing can happen anywhere. Testers can be debriefed afterwards. So first, I'd like to show you a brief clip from our documentary. It's called Testing the Divide. And the problem highlighted in this clip is something we didn't expect in this day of age. We were naive. These were inappropriate comments about race or ethnicity made by real estate agents to customers, almost always made to the white home buyer.
Community came in, okay, and they really took over Springs in Northwest Woods area.
Here, an agent gives conflicting advice about Freeport.
I like Freeport. Now you have a bad school district, and that's not good for resale value.
On the school bus, see the moms that are hanging out on the corners.
But you don't want to go there. It's a mixed neighborhood. It's mini United Nations.
Because you might be more comfortable in a certain demographic area that isn't heavily one way or another in terms of the people.
Bayshore has two school districts, Brentwood and Bayshore. You don't want to have Brentwood school districts. You want to have Bayshore school district. I can't say anything, but I encourage you, I want you to go there at 10 o'clock at night with your wife to buy diapers. Go to that 7-Eleven. They didn't buy there.
No, that's great.
I have to say it without saying it, you know, you have the knowledge of the areas, you
Yes.
know. I don't want to use the word steer, but I try to I'll use another word. I
listen,
educate in the
absolutely.
areas,
That's
you know.
Yeah. How are you, Russ? Hey, Russ. Good. How are you?
We're either waiting for the owner or waiting for the agent to show up.
You don't want to be. I don't think you should be in Almont. I think you should probably just be Franklin Square.
And I remember specifically, he talked about steering.
Yes, that's what he said. Steering, yeah.
Yeah. And in the same breath, he mentioned, well, steering's bad, but this is what I'm going to do.
There's something called steering. No steering, you know, like steering.
Oh, like a car or something?
No,
Oh.
like a horse, even.
We did 86 matched tests at 12 companies or brands that together represent more than half of the sellers in our market. Coldwell Banker, Keller Williams, Century 21, Remax, as well as the large regional brands. And we tested each company many times. So now, here are the results. The agents gave unequal treatment, better treatment to the white home buyer in 40% of our tests. But it wasn't the same for every type of pair. 19% of the time, Asian American buyers were treated differently than their white counterparts. 19%, about 2 out of 10. 39% of the time, Hispanic buyers were treated differently, 4 out of 10. And 49%, 5 out of 10, Black buyers were treated differently. I wonder what you think. Does anyone doubt that the results would be substantially the same if we repeated the test in your community or in just about any community in America? Most of the disparities that we observed were caused by steering. Black buyers got fewer listings the wider the area. Agents directed a quarter of our minority buyers into completely different communities and school districts than their white counterparts. Along with that, there were agents who refused to serve customers, mostly because of not having pre-approval. Again, both buyers had no pre-approval or pre-qualification from a lender, but that was a barrier with that agent for only one of the buyers. You know, I think the key issue to focus on here is what sort of strategy will help ensure fair treatment of all buyers. I have a sense that some agents have gotten the message that complying with the fair housing laws means not saying the wrong thing, or not saying the wrong thing to the wrong person who might complain about it. I'd like to urge more attention to steering and to differential treatment on what people do instead of what they say, and are they giving the same advice to all clients, treating all clients equally. Here's a video clip with a strong example of steering. One man and his family are warned away from an area, while another man and his family are told that it would be a good place to live.
Kelvin Toon is a black man in his early 50s, and he went in to meet with an agent involving a test in the Brentwood community, a community that is 80% Hispanic and black. The agent communicated to Kelvin, our black tester, that she enjoyed meeting with clients from the Brentwood area.
Every time I get a new listing in Brentwood or a new client, I get so excited because they're the nicest people.
When we sent Kelvin's counterpart in to meet with the same agent, the white tester was actually warned about Brentwood not being a nice place.
The nursing home we need to be near is in Brentwood.
Okay.
And so we found a couple that are in Brentwood.
Pretty close to each other.
Okay. And it just seemed like those would be handy also for going to visit.
Do you want to give me them and I'll look into them for you? Or?
Yeah, I can do that.
That warning came later to the white tester saying there was concern about gang activity going on in Brentwood. This agent wanted the white tester to know, but that information wasn't provided to Kelvin, the black tester. The listings centered black tester Kelvin in Brentwood with 27 house listings, while the white tester got 0 listings in Brentwood and was directed towards much whiter neighborhoods.
One of the things that startled us was that agents time and again began their presentations to our buyers with inappropriate comments or information that violates the Fair Housing Act. These were new customers, and it seemed, I have to say, that the agents viewed steering as a big part of the service that they were selling, making out lists of which school districts you want and which school districts you don't want. Our testers would come back with these handwritten lists from the agents, but the 2 testers who saw the same agent would get a different list. One school district was described as declining, or another would be blue ribbon, but the information wouldn't be consistent. Some agents have gotten from this the idea that they can't talk about schools at all. You've heard agents say that, I can't mention schools. That actually might be a good strategy for making sure you stay in fair ground, but the Fair Housing Act doesn't say that. You can give straightforward, factual information, or answer questions, or refer customers to websites with information. The problem arises when agents are picking and choosing different districts for different customers and not giving the same information to everyone. Just as a small thing, we saw clients come back, one with a fat folder of a lot of information about the schools and other things, and then the other person seeing the same agent would come back with a skinny folder. But you have to ask yourself, when did agents become experts on schools and music programs and everything that customers are interested in? The National Association of Realtors has offered some suggestions on avoiding steering, providing customers with listings based on objective criteria. That's the first thing. Home size and price range and other attributes, and not on vague terms such as nice neighborhood or good schools or safe. Pay attention to unconscious biases. When you're evaluating what a customer objectively wants, and you may have eliminated certain areas, ask yourself why. As a layman, I would ask, in addition, do real estate agents really need to be eliminating areas? Doesn't that just open up the door to unequal treatment? Now, finally, what are some of the resources that are available to you? NAR has responded vigorously to the Newsday investigation. I'd like to mention a part of what they're doing. There's a new head of fair housing efforts at NAR. Welcome to the job. And they have a new program called ACT, A-C-T. A stands for accountability. And NAR is working with state associations to review state laws to see whether they hold agents accountable and have enforcement mechanisms for fair housing. NAR is also developing a voluntary program of self-testing for companies to test their own agents. The CEO of Realogy, which owns several of the large real estate brands, has spoken in favor of doing testing of his own agents. And NAR intends to aid that effort by putting together sort of a cookbook, a how to test manual that companies could use to see if their agents are complying. So that's accountability. C stands for culture change. And I think this is the hardest part. For example, you know that fair housing is a core component of the Realtors Code of Ethics. But remember that for decades, that same code of ethics required realtors to enforce racial segregation. It was a violation of your code of ethics to sell a home to an African-American person in a mostly white neighborhood. So cultures can be changed. There is a long tradition in America of redlining, of block busting, of racial covenants on deeds, of subprime lending. And these things combined with segregation have ill effects that last for generations as wealth is carried down and as schools differ. So I hope you'll keep in mind what the impact is of what may seem like small individual actions helping one homebuyer or another, but those impacts can be magnified. Many Black homebuyers still are locked into neighborhoods that are disinvested, that have parks and grocery stores and other necessities that are not as good. Keep in mind, please, these impacts, it's easy to say, oh, it's just testers, but no, there are real people who are affected, and that we're just using the testers to show what that effect looks like. A big part of this culture change will involve schools, and I'll just mention one complexity of that. If you say, well, the right thing to do under good, fair housing practice is to refer customers to websites like Great Schools that rank schools on test scores. That's what they do. They rank on test scores. And measuring schools just based on test scores is a way of perpetuating segregation because test scores are closely aligned with income and therefore with race. NAR is looking at that. They're trying to figure out ways to provide customers with information on schools that won't fall into that sort of fair housing pitfall. Finally, ACT, T stands for training. And NAR is improving its training materials, has new videos online in a fair housing section. It's putting together a course for brokers on implicit bias, a course that brokers can use to train their agents. And all of that seems useful. Not a fix, not a complete fix. As we were watching these testers go out and come back and watching their video, we would ask, how would one stop steering from happening? And I have to say, as a layman, I landed on the idea to stop illegal steering, the right thing to do may be to stop steering customers to neighborhoods at all. But also look at your procedures to see if everyone's being treated the same. If pre-approval is being required of one customer, is it being required of everyone? If you ask a credit score or an income of someone, ask it of everyone. I know that it's really hard to have quality control with independent agents working from home as we all are, or out of your SUV, and some agents are part-time, and I realize that it's hard. But notice what the effect would be. For example, if your MLS software has you begin a home search by picking and choosing neighborhoods, turning on where to do the search by ticking boxes, that's how it worked on Long Island, realize that really pushes the agent to do selection. And is the agent just responding to what the objective criteria are of the customer, or is the agent looking at the customer and or the customer's name and then picking communities based on that? It's worth self-examination and having brokers examine the activities that are happening in their office. I would urge you to start from the point of view, if a person is looking for homes up to this price range, with this number of bedrooms, within so many minutes of a certain location, why not provide them all those listings? Why not send them the link that opens the door to all of those listings? Well, I know that you want to make sure that everyone who calls or emails or walks into your office is treated fairly. So I hope you will think about what practical steps can we take that will help make that happen. I appreciate you listening, and I want to encourage you to go to the Newsday website, newsday.com/divided, and you'll see the video testing the divide, and you can read the stories and see the maps of listings provided in all the tests. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Bill. Much, much appreciated. And I know you didn't have time to look in the chat, but everyone really, really thanks you for all the work that you put into this and the time. So thank
That's
you
very kind. Thank you very much, Katie.
so much. I also want to add someone in the chat asked a question, like, I feel like my clients are being steered right now. Like, what do I do? And if I've learned anything over the last 6 months of like working from home, just trying to like, just learn as much as I can, it's speak up. Like, don't speak up, say something if it doesn't seem right. Also, an amazing podcast that I've listened to recently is called Nice White Parents. And I highly recommend it as well. But again, thank you so much, Bill,